It's about informing the people with the facts to know what's really happening in Thailand, inside government, business, society, with real players, talking to leaders and decision makers, seeking answer with perspective, issues that affect Thailand's future. This is Thailand. This is the Insider Thailand. สวัสดีครับ and welcome to a special episode of The Insider. Australia and Thailand share a long history of friendship, one that can be traced back to the reign of King Rama VI in the early years of the 20th century. Since then, a strong friendship has emerged between our two peoples, which has made our two nations dynamic and strategic partner in the Asia-Pacific region. With diplomatic ties established in 1952, Thailand and Australia have enjoyed a 65 years of fruitful cooperation in development, trade and investment, education, security, tourism, not to mention several exchanges of high-level visits. More recently, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defence of Australia paid their official visit to Thailand, and His Excellency General Prayut Chan-o-cha, Prime Minister of Thailand, is due to visit Australia next year during the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit. As we are celebrating the 65th years of Thai-Australian diplomatic relations this year, and with the opening of the new Australian Embassy, today is a timely occasion to talk to His Excellency Mr. Paul Robilius, the Ambassador of Australia to Thailand, about the future prospect of this long-standing relationship.
It's a great pleasure to welcome you, General.
Thank you so much.
It's always a great pleasure to have you in the Australian Ambassador's residence.
Thank you so
always
much.
Nice to see you.
Thank you so
Please,
much.
sign our guest
Sure.
book. It's always a great pleasure to have you. You knew our former residence very well, but
Yeah.
of course this is our new resident. We're very, very proud of it. And of course, it's Australian design. Australian Indigenous art, that's the art of the original Australians, Indigenous Australians, is very famous around the world. And one of the things we really want to do is to showcase Australian Indigenous art, and these two paintings are wonderful examples. The Indigenous art is not just about representation, it's also about conveying the sense of country, the sense of place where the people come from, and there's much in it of spirituality, of Aboriginal, Indigenous spirituality, which is conveyed through the works of art. And when we have an embassy like this, a residence like this, we want to be able to showcase this work.
Excellency, the relation between Australia and Thailand is quite long, 65 years. In your opinion, what is the uniqueness of relation of the two countries?
Well, we celebrate 65 years of diplomatic relations this year. Of course, the relationship goes back much longer than just the 65 years of our diplomatic relationship. But the relationship is built on so many different areas of cooperation and partnership and history. And I think that's what makes it very special. It's a big economic relationship. For both Australia and Thailand, we feature as the 8th largest trading partner for each country, $21 billion worth of trade, trade that's doubled since the signature of our free trade agreement a number of years ago. It's a big education relationship. We have nearly 30,000 Thai students studying in Australia every year. That's the 4th largest number of students from any country. And you are very much one of them, and a very significant member of our alumni.
Thank you.
And we're very proud of our alumni. And of course, we're particularly proud of the fact that His Majesty the King is a very distinguished member of the Thai alumni from studying in Australia. But the relationship goes across many areas. As I mentioned, education, commerce and trade, but also the political relationship is very important. But it's that people-to-people relationship which makes it very special. The fact that we get 900,000 Australian tourists coming to Thailand every year, that's very important. Many Australians know Thailand extremely well. And now in Australia, I think we have more Thai restaurants than we have Chinese restaurants.
As this year marks the 65th anniversary of the relation, So what kind of activity and event that would be taking place in order to celebrate or to commemorate that very special occasion?
We have a number of things that have happened this year already which have commemorated our 65th anniversary. Not least is the opening of our new embassy building here in Bangkok. Having been in our previous embassy in Sathorn, Sathorn Road since 1979, we opened our new embassy here just off Wireless Road. So that was a very significant step and a very significant part of the relationship, the 65th anniversary of the relationship. This is one of our largest embassies in the world here in Bangkok. In fact, it's the fourth largest embassy Australia has in the world. And it was a great pleasure that Julie Bishop, the Australian Foreign Minister, was able to visit Thailand, her second visit here in the last few years. And together with Foreign Minister Don, officially opened the new embassy. So that was a big part of the relation of the 65th anniversary celebration. And just soon after Foreign Minister Bishop's visit, we had a visit by Defence Minister Payne, and she was also able to meet with the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister General Prawit to talk about the significance of the defence relationship. But probably the most significant part of the 65th anniversary was the fact that we were able to have the Royal Dance Con perform at Sydney Opera House.
In Sydney Opera House?
At the Sydney Opera House, the very iconic Sydney Opera House, and it was something that I had been working very hard with the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to have organised, because I thought that this was going to be such a wonderful way of celebrating 65 years of our diplomatic relationship.
I've been studying in Australia for quite some time. I have personal touch with Australia, with everything in Australia. I feel like Australia is my second home. I don't know, how do you feel about living in Thailand?
Yes, I've been living in Thailand for nearly 3 years. I should say that in Australia's Foreign Service, being posted as Ambassador to Bangkok is regarded as being one of the great honours and privileges. It's seen as being it's a very sought after posting. A lot of people were very jealous of me when I got the job as Australian Ambassador to Thailand. Bangkok is seen as being one of the best places you can live and work as a diplomat. I think the first time I came to Bangkok was 1980, and I've seen many, many changes here in Bangkok over those years. But Thailand is a wonderful place to live. The people are extremely kind, extremely generous, extremely easy to work with and extremely easy to get on with. We have a huge, extensive relationship, so I'm kept pretty busy doing the professional side of the job. I wish I had a bit more time to get around and do some more personal things.
So we have a large area of cooperation between the two countries over the past 65 years. Our cooperation has been very close in all dimensions, as you mentioned before. What about the future? Do you see the potential in Thailand that we can further strengthen the cooperation?
ASEAN is a very important partner for Australia. Our relationship with ASEAN is a big part of Australia's foreign and trade policy. And Thailand is a very, very important part of ASEAN. And Thailand is important also as Thailand. So we will always want to look to have a strong and developing relationship with Thailand. We'll disagree from time to time on some things, that's only natural. But overall we want the relationship to be a positive one and one that continues to strengthen. We think there are a lot of opportunities for further development of the economic and commercial relationship. Thailand 4.0 is, we think, something that Australia can make a real contribution to, and indeed just recently we had a visit Ambassador for Cyber Affairs, who had some very good discussions with ministers and the private sector about developing our cooperation in cyber and digital areas. And we think Australia's got a real contribution we can make as Thailand looks to develop its industry and also particularly its agricultural sector, because Australia of course has a strong agricultural sector ourselves. So that economic commercial relationship is one we think we can really develop and increase. But we'll see continuing development of the relationship across all areas. I think the education relationship remains one where we can continue to expand. I think as Thailand looks to, for example, develop its vocational education training, that is something Australia can make a significant contribution to. We have a strong vocational sector in Australia, and we think that's an area where we can continue to contribute to Thailand's development. And that's very important for Thailand as it looks to develop its education strength in the vocational sector. One important area of cooperation is how we tackle issues around transnational crime, cross-boundary issues, right through the ASEAN region and more broadly within Asia. We have strong cooperation with Thailand in a number of those areas, and that's only going to grow and increase. So there are areas where there are a lot of opportunities to expand and develop our cooperation. We encourage Australian business to, when they look at Thailand, to not just think about Thailand, but to think about the countries of the region. Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Myanmar, where Thailand is a natural place for Australian companies to base themselves, to work with Thai partners in developing their economic relations with those other countries. It's only natural that we have a strong relationship, and it's only natural that that relationship continue to grow and develop.
What you have just mentioned is exactly in line with the Prime Minister policy and opinion at the moment, because we are not just only seeking cooperation, for the benefit of Thailand alone. We believe that we can also support our neighboring countries to support ASEAN, to make ASEAN become the region that offer a lot to our friends as well. It seemed to me that ASEAN is quite important to Australia.
ASEAN is very important to Australia. Combined, ASEAN is Australia's second largest trading partner after China. It's a very important economic relationship, but it's also a very important strategic relationship. And for Australia, a strong ASEAN is very important. A strong ASEAN serves Australia's interests extremely well. And in that context, Thailand has a very important role to play, having been a founding member of ASEAN, having been a leading member of ASEAN for many, many years. We always think it's important, if you're going to have a strong ASEAN, then Thailand has to be playing a strong role. So ASEAN is always going to be important to Australia. We take pride in the fact that we were ASEAN's first dialogue partner. We take a great deal of pride when we look at the range of activity and cooperation and partnership that we have with ASEAN. Indeed, just last week, our ambassador to ASEAN, Jane Duke, who's based in Jakarta, was here in Thailand for a few days, talking to the private sector, talking to government about how we continue to develop the relationship between Australia and ASEAN.
So apart from Thailand 4.0 policy, I believe that you are aware of the Thailand +1 policy as well.
Yes.
I think that would serve the purpose of Australia in connecting Australia with ASEAN.
Look, I think the ASEAN's connectivity agenda, the connectivity agenda that Thailand has, are very, very important for the region and are very important for Australia. Obviously, improving connectivity across the countries of Southeast Asia will only be of benefit to Southeast Asia's trading partners, of which Australia is one of the most important. I think the important thing, though, is to always remember that connectivity is not just about the hard infrastructure, about the roads and the rails. A big issue that has to still be addressed is what happens at the border, and to ensure that commercial activity, trading can take place between the countries of the region in as free and unfettered way as possible. That when a truck gets to the border, it doesn't have to stop there for a whole long time to get paperwork done and so forth. So that's one area where I think Australia can help Thailand breaking down some of those barriers at the border, because you can have wonderful road networks, you can have wonderful rail networks, but they have to be able to be seamless. They have to allow for that ASEAN economic community to be a genuine community in which trade can take place, largely unrestricted by lots of bureaucracy and paperwork.
In the very near future, Australia would host the ASEAN-Australia Special Summit, that's right?
Yes, we'll be hosting that special summit in March. 2018 in Sydney. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is very enthusiastic about this. It was something that he has wanted to do ever since he became Prime Minister. He feels because of the special nature and importance of the relationship between ASEAN and Australia, to have a special leaders summit hosted in Australia was important in delivering the message to people both in ASEAN countries but also in Australia about the importance and the value of the relationship that we have. So we're very pleased that all 10 leaders of ASEAN, including Prime Minister Prayut, have committed to attending the summit. It'll be a significant event in Sydney, and it will raise the profile of ASEAN in Australia, which we believe is very important so that people understand just how significant ASEAN is. But we hope too that it will also ensure that members of the ASEAN community also understand the very strong relationship that Australia has and the strong partnership we have across so many areas in our engagement. But as I said earlier, a strong ASEAN is very important for Australia, and we want to be able to showcase that strength of that relationship through the special summit and through associated events around the special summit. And we're very much looking forward to it in March, and we're certainly very much looking forward to the Prime Minister being able to attend.
What about the relationship between the two countries?
It's a very long-standing relationship between our two militaries. Indeed, you can go back to the First World War when both our militaries participated on the Western Front in France. But more recently and more substantively, of course, we were engaged in Korea together, we were in Vietnam together, and then more recently in East Timor, where Australia and Thailand partnered in leading the United Nations force in East Timor, and that was something that really strengthened the relationship considerably. But we have an extensive military relationship. Indeed, just last week I was at Korat for the closing ceremony for exercise Thai Boomerang, which is our major aircraft exercise. A lot of fighter pilots getting together, but having a very positive and productive exercise. And that happens every second year here in Thailand, and in the other years it happens in Australia, where Thailand participates in Pitch Black. We have naval exercises, we have army exercises, we have exercises across all our services. But also importantly, there's a lot of training. And as you know yourself personally, Australia hosts every year at least 100, 120 Thai military officers training in Australia. That might be just a 2-week course, or it could be a couple of years doing a postgraduate degree. But that's a very important element of the relationship. And then we do a lot of training together here in Thailand. English language training is a particular focus of our effort here with the Thai military. We think it's important that the Thai military officers be capable and comfortable in English. And there's training across a whole range of areas. And it's important that we have this activity between our militaries, because at some time in the future it's quite possible that we'll have to work together. And that doesn't necessarily mean a military operation in war fighting, but it could be in response to a natural disaster, a humanitarian crisis. And it's important in those circumstances that our militaries understand each other and can communicate and be comfortable with each other. And that's why these exercises, this training, is a very important.
How Australia and Thailand can form the partnership in order to make the region become secure and stable.
And we've worked very closely together in the past, and we look forward to continuing to work very closely together in the future, including in organisations such as the East Asia Summit, the EAS, which brings together the members of ASEAN with its key partners, and where we can discuss some of these issues in a serious and important way. We do face some genuine security problems here in this region. Issues around North Korea and its nuclear program, issues around the South China Sea, and as we're talking now, issues in Myanmar with the Rohingya population and what is happening in Rakhine State. And they're just some of the security issues we face. We have ongoing issues around the threat of terrorism in the region and the potential threat that we might be faced with returning foreign fighters coming back from Syria and Iraq. These are all serious issues which have to be managed and have to be resolved, and it's best that they be resolved in a peaceful fashion to an acceptable way to everyone in the region.
This government, under General Prayut Chan-o-cha leadership, always emphasized that Thailand is undertaking the comprehensive reform. One objective is to be able to fulfill the commitment and obligation we have with our international friends. We are now having the 20-year national strategy. How can Australian help Thailand or support Thailand to achieve our goal?
Well, of course, the goals that Thailand sets for itself are matters for Thailand. It's a matter for the government and for the people of Thailand to determine what their goals are, what their objectives are. But it's also important that Australia looks for those opportunities and working in partnership with Thailand to help you achieve the goals you have set for yourself. I think in broad terms, we've mentioned earlier Thailand 4.0. I think Australia can make a significant contribution in a number of areas there with the development of the digital economy, the digital sector, the development of agriculture, the development of the services sector. This is going to be very increasingly important for Thailand as it moves forward. I think in the overall reform process, Australia can make a contribution in terms of the development of the institutions of Thailand. We have a very strong historical relationship with a number of the very important institutions here, at the professional level, but also at the personal level. It's important that those institutions play an appropriate and necessary role in the government of any country. And here I'm talking about things like the Electoral Commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Human Rights Commission. These are all important elements of any nation's institutional framework. The legal system, the court system. We just had recently a visit by the President of the Supreme Court of Thailand to Australia to look at a number of issues around how the Australian legal system operates. And I think this is an area where Australia can continue to work closely with our partners in Thailand in assisting you achieve the objectives. And those objectives are matters for Thailand to settle itself, but we're certainly always looking for opportunities where we can help you on that path.
Thank you very much for joining us and for giving us such a great honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure. Thank you very much. All the best.
Currently, Thailand has 6 diplomatic missions in Australia, including 1 embassy, 1 consulate general, and 5 honorary consulates, signifying the importance of the one-Thai government attached to Australia. The close connection between the Australian and Thai people provides a solid foundation for the Australian-Thai relationship in all other areas. As we celebrate the 65th anniversary of diplomatic relations, the strength of this relationship cannot be more evident as represented in frequent high-level visits, large trade and investment volumes, and our common aspiration for regional security and prosperity. As Ambassador Lobilius has mentioned to us today, this friendship is also a partnership. We are looking at a dynamic future together in terms of our cooperation in various spheres for the mutual benefit of our citizens, enhanced by mutual understanding, confidence in each other, and a genuine friendship between our people. It is foreseeable that Australian-Thai ties will continue to flourish in the year to come. Thank you very much for watching The Insider. Please stay tuned for the next episode. สวัสดีครับ